Well, so like I said earlier in the day, another album review was coming, and it's finally here. Title below, this is the review of the brand new Exodus album, Blood In, Blood Out. Now, this album is a little over an hour long, and this album, boy, I tell you, some of the things that can be said about this album would be ridiculous, but I figured I'd save it for this particular review. Now, with this album, you have a few guest appearances. A rapper named Dan the Automator did the introduction for the opening track, Black 13, which was pretty much the thing I didn't really like about the track was that little intro. But after that intro was done, and it got into the thrash metal that we all know and love from Exodus, then it was all fine and good. And then you get a guitar solo appearance on the song Salt the Wound by Kirk Hammett of Metallica, an original member of Exodus. So it was like a family reunion kind of coming together on that track, and that's actually one of my favorite songs of the album is Salt the Wound. But my favorite track that had a guest appearance and my favorite track with the whole album was BTK with featuring one of my favorite thrash vocalists, Chuck Billy of Testament, doing guest vocals on this track, and I loved it. But with this album, Exodus is still going strong with their career. I mean, it'd been 4 long years since the release of Exhibit B, The Human Condition, which was a masterful thrash album of the modern era when that came out. Now, this album includes a lineup change. Rob Dukes, who was the singer on the last couple of releases, is no longer in the band and was replaced by former vocalist back in the late 80s, early 90s to like the Tempo of the Damned album 10 years ago. And that's Steve Zetro Souza, former Testament vocalist as well, the original Testament vocalist, back when they were called Legacy. But I ought to say, Steve Zetro Souza's voice on this album wasn't half bad, though it wasn't like his previous work. To me, his voices kind of went a little haywire to me over the years. It's like now he's on the verge almost of sounding like a black metal vocalist with his screams, but you can still hear some hints of his old stuff in his voice. But I mean, his vocal delivery on this album wasn't bad. I thought it was decent, but I just thought he could have probably done a lot better than what I had originally thought. But that's not a big downgrade to the album too much. But I will say, I mean, with the other members, Gary Holt and Lee Altus doing an excellent job with the guitars. I thought the guitar work on this album was extremely phenomenal. The bass from Jack Gibson, that bass tone was just unbelievable. And Tom Hunting has not missed a beat on the drum kit. He did an excellent job. So really, the only member of the band that had any kind of weakness at all was Zetro with his voice, but it was still not bad. I will say that. Songs such as the title track, Blood In, Blood Out, Blood Out, Collateral Damage, Salt the Wound, BTK, Honor Killings, and Food for the Worms, all had something unique about it. You just have this sheer level of anger and brutality that goes on within the structuring of the music, where it's super heavy and you got some fast double bass going on, and the lyric subjects are very brutal. I mean, they were one of the first metal bands to have that kind of lyrical identity where it's about killing people or stuff like that, and that eventually was an influence on later death metal bands' lyrics. So overall with this album, I mean, you also had, like I said, the guest appearances were actually cool. Dan the Automator would have probably been not really necessarily needed for the song Black 13 when it was a hell of an opening track. But Kirk Hammett's guitar solo on Salt the Wound was just, I thought, was awesome. And Chuck Billy on BTK was, I thought he did an excellent job. I would have rather have had Chuck Billy sing on this album than Zetro, to be honest, but it is what it is. I mean, it's minor complaint really for me with Souza, because I thought he was not up to par to what he was back then. But then again, he is getting older, but I just kind of thought his voice kind of almost went into like a black metal kind of voice, But yeah, the guitar work, like I said, the guitar work, the bass work, the drum work was all excellent. The production on this album was really good. I mean, with the band producing it themselves and having it mixed and mastered and engineered on the drums by Andy Sneap, who's a master at production and mixing and all that stuff. The lyrics, of course, were very brutal. Some of the song titles were brutal as well, like Blood In, Blood Out, Collateral Damage, Body Harvest, Wrapped in the Arms of Rage, Honor Killings, and Food for the Worms. Those are some pretty brutal song titles, but overall, there is on this album a little bit of repetitiveness on a few tracks. Particularly the songs Body Harvest, Wrapped in the Arms of Rage, My Last Nerve, and Numb. To me, to my ears, some of the stylings going on those tracks got a little bit repetitive, but not too much. They were still very good tracks, I will say, but I wasn't 100% sold on them. But overall, this was a very good release. Don't think it was as good as Exhibit B, The Human Condition, but it's still a very good release. 8.25 out of 10. Who knows if this is going to make the Album of the Year list in December or not. Once I get that list together, I'll find out for myself if whether or not it does or not. We'll see. But what did you guys think of this album? Did you like it? Or did you not like it? Let me know in the comments. But until then, peace out, people, and have a good night.